The Yanyin Cannon Pro. Let's talk about it. Now, this is a sample sent out to me from Linsel. I am very appreciative of them sending this out to me, and all thoughts and opinions are my own. This is a single dynamic driver, 6BA IEM, that costs around $400. Let's look at the build quality of this guy and then kind of go from there. I like this shell. It's light, it's comfortable, it's not hard to fit in ears, it's not too large, but it's also not so small that it feels dainty. Comfort's good. I wouldn't call it world class, but I would say it's on the more comfortable side of IEMs for me. It looks and feels nice. It has a kind of a nozzle which holds IEM tips okay. I did lose one in there. It is vented. It has a nice faceplate and is an overall nice shell, but it's not perfect. It's one of the better shells, but not the best. Here we have our tips here in the box. Not too exciting, but it's a fair amount of tips. Now, I love this case. It reminds me a lot of my Elitech case a lot. You know, it has like a circular case that's kind of leather. It's almost like a plasticky suede on the outside, so it's not like a pure leather feeling, but the inside feels really good. The zipper is nice, and it feels durable. There are faint left and right connectors here on this cable. This is a beautiful cable. Like, just because this is a $400 IEM doesn't mean it's going to have a cable. This is one of the nicer cables that I've seen on an IEM of any price, and I really enjoy it. It is a 3.5 cable, although you can get this in 4.4 or even 2.5, although I don't know why you'd want 2.5 this time. But, you know, some people still have DACs that use that. It is a squishy, pliable, good-feeling cable, and I enjoy it a lot. This is a fantastic cable. You know, this is an interesting IEM. It does have multiple dip switch settings, but I only listened to it on the up situation, which I think most people did. You know, this is an interesting IEM. It's not a super bassy IEM. It's not a super mid-focused IEM, but it's a really good neutral IEM that's just a good IEM. It has nice treble, nice detail, nice contrast to it, but it doesn't really stand out to a gross level, but it's overall a good, clean earphone. It's kind of has an interesting place in the market, but overall, sonically, I really enjoy this earphone, and I find it to be an extremely competitive and competent headphone that I enjoy a lot. Let's look at some graphs and talk about some comparisons, but overall, sonically, it's very pleasing, but not very standout. All right, let's look at the Yanyin Cannon Pro. You'll notice it fits the target really well. It has a little bit of upper air and extension, but it's nothing too extravagant. It doesn't really have a lot of sub bass, and its mids, like its lower mid range, is a little bit tamed out, which for me is not really ideal, but it's not bad. Bass and dynamics are not bad in this IEM, but they just sound a little bit, just ever so bit recessed, but it's not lacking. And that's kind of what's interesting about this IEM. There's nothing really stand out, nothing harsh. There's no treble spikes. There's nothing that I feel is gone. And it just feels really kind of like a safe, clean, good IEM, and that's what I think is so interesting about this set, is that it is not super standoutish, but it has a lot of great qualities and is really pristine with good micro details. I wanted to compare this to a few other in their lineup. Now, I'm not going to say too much about the Carmen. My time with it, I just wasn't overly impressed for its price. But I did really like the Cannon 2, and I thought the Cannon 2 was a nice set with a bit more sub bass. It's a little bit more kind of impactful. It's, I wouldn't say call it for bass heads, but it has nice warmth and punch, but it doesn't have that air and detail for me that the Cannon Pro does have. And so for me, the Cannon Pro really has nice details, and I can really crank it up. And I think for me, I will go with the Cannon Pro over the Cannon 2. I think the Cannon 2 is almost like It's kind of like a mid-bassy set. I did a review on it about 2 weeks ago, and I really like the Cannon 2, but it's one of those sets that I think, for its price, I think there's a lot of competition. But what the Cannon Pro does is I don't know, it just has some interesting things about it where it has this sort of really smooth, nice treble. And we'll talk about a few other sets that this reminds me of and where you could kind of go in what direction. A lot of people like the Hype 4. The Hype 4 got a ton of hype. He does some good stuff. If you're looking for a little bit more bass, the Hype 4 might do it for you. But the upper air and extension of the Hype 4 was a little bit muffled for me, a little bit too exaggerated. Whereas the Cannon Pro feels a lot more subtle, a lot more neutral. And I think that's kind of what's unique about it, is that it doesn't have this spice, this exaggeration, but just a little bit more subtle, a little bit less aggressive. And that's a nice thing about the Cannon Pro. A lot of people are going to compare this to the Dusk because the Dusk is right around that price range. For me, I do prefer the Critical Dusk DSP. So if you're going to use this in DSP, I do think this is a really strong way to go. The Dust DSP is a nice set, but I mean, it's also kind of problematic having to use something on DSP because if you carry it with you, depending on your setup sometimes for me, it's smoother just to use a wired IEM, but that's what I'm kind of into. But I think the Dust DSP is better. But if you compare this to the regular Dusk, that's where it gets interesting. I mean, it hugs the target a little bit better. They both have reasonable bass. But for me, I don't know. I think at this comparison, this is a lot better of a comparison for me. For what I want from an IEM, I think I kind of would go with the Cannon Pro over the Dusk. But it's close depending on what you want, what you need, whether you want a collab IEM, whether you value a great cable. There's a lot to be had about both of them. So it kind of depends on packaging. But sonically, I would give a slight edge to the Cannon Pro over the Critical Dusk in analog form. As other things we look at, there are IEMs that are cheaper that have similar tonality, like the Odyssey is a really kind of a popular one if you want a hybrid. It's like half the cost. I really think the Odyssey, if you're trying to save money, could be one that really works for you. I like the Cannon Pro better. I think the treble and detail is better on it, but that's just me. Another one to think about is the Pilgrim. The Pilgrim came across really bright for me, and it didn't really work for me in my ear, and I felt like it didn't really have that magnificentness to it, whereas the Cannon Pro just feels natural, laid back, and it doesn't change things. It just feels smoother and nicer to me, whereas the Pilgrim had a brightness about it. That could just be how it sat in ear. I'm not entirely sure, but it just wasn't as good for me. Like the Cannon Pro, for me, just is a fantastic set, and it really does well. As far as other sets go, one of my favorite sets is the AFU Performer 7. The Cannon Pro has a little bit better of a nozzle, a little bit different of a faceplate. I think probably better accessories. And I think its treble extension is a little bit, there's a spiciness to the Performer 7. It's almost like an extra incision, almost like a crispness about the Performer 7. It also has a little bit better bass than the Cannon Pro. They really trade blows. And if the awful Performer 7's treble doesn't bother you, which I think it's a little bit exaggerated and a little bit odd, it becomes one of the best values in audio. But because of that, that's part of the reason it's not ranked higher. In some ways, to me, it's an S, just because of how much I like it. But I feel because how I feel other people like it, something like the Cannon Pro would be better. But it's hard to recommend because there's not a lot to say other than just ear feeling. And and oftentimes, whether it's the Performer 7 or the Odyssey, sometimes it's hard to beat those combinations. But I do think that the Cannon Pro has some quality, has some magic to it that I think it is really respected. And I'm just loving my time testing the Cannon Pro, and that doesn't happen very often. I'll be really honest. That doesn't happen very often where I'll actually enjoy testing an IEM. I know that sounds lame, but oftentimes I'm just, it's so bad. I'm just like 3 seconds into it, I just want to throw it on my desk or return it. But the Cannon Pro is a magical, beautiful guy. Well, I am. Another one to look at right around this price is the Dunu Brain Dance. And this is a different tonality. And with its stock tonality, I would go the Cannon Pro just because a little bit less brightness for me. But if you want, if you're willing to add an impedance adapter, I would go with the Cannon Pro. Here, let's actually make that so you can see it. But you'll notice when it does have a little bit of an impedance adapter, it does get a little bit more bass, and it really gets really rich and a lot of fun. But it does have this kind of upper energy here at this 5 to 6K. It does get fatiguing in ear, but on certain tracks and certain times and for certain times of the day, it's a nice set. But like the Dunu Brain Dance, I feel like if that upper treble is not going to bother you, like this upper mid 5 to 6K region doesn't bother you, it's going to be a great, fantastic set. It has great ability to use an impedance adapter. But the thing about the Cannon Pro is that it's just smooth. It's an all-day kind of a set. It's just so smooth and laid back that it gets an easy, strong recommendation for what it is. Another thing that this reminds me a lot of is the Meteor, the Moondrop Meteor. Now, the Moondrop Meteor has even less bass. It's really unbassy, has a little bit of this kind of 4 to 6K region I don't like. But I would say the Cannon Pro, to my ear, has that same level of treble and detail, and it just has a smoothness and a gorgeousness about it that the Meteor has. For me, like, the Meteor is kind of a gimmicky set. It is cool, but its shell is weird. It's like super weird. It's almost like having like pipes hanging out your ears. And if you look at it, it's just a strange set in that regards. But the Cannon Pro, to me, has a little bit better bass, a little bit cleaner mid-treble region, and its air and upper detail is just, it's just so nice. And I can listen to it all day. It's more comfortable. It's also like $200 cheaper. If the Meteor works for you, I could see people really liking it. It's a nice set. But for me, that level of treble and detail it's hard to find at this price. And the Cannon Pro does a fantastic job at having that air and detail just feel really natural and really great. All right, Yanyin Cannon Pro. Let's rank this up. I really like it. Smooth bass, smooth mids, nothing too exaggerated or dynamic, but it has really nice highs. It images well. I want more sub bass, but it has a nice kind of natural sound shades to it, but it does feel safe. It does feel reserved. It does feel like somebody who's just trying to get a C, like an A minus rather than an A plus, like they're just kind of going through the motions. There's something that's not overly majestic about it, and I think like if you're really looking at something a little bit more dynamic, something like the Mega 5 EST, even something like the Volume S might be better, but there's other sets that are a little bit cheaper, and so it has kind of, like I said, an interesting place in the market. But as far as does it get a recommendation, yes, it does. It's extremely safe, extremely clean. I like the sub bass. I like the mids. And I think despite its faults and flaws, it's just a gorgeous set. The Yanyin Cannon Pro has a lot going on for it. Beautiful shell, beautiful cable, nice little setup, and it's just an all-around, all-encompassing package. Yeah, it's a little expensive. Yeah, maybe, depending on what you want and what you value. But if you want something that's a clean shell, that's beautiful, that's light, that's something that you can EQ to your heart's content, I think this is a really good starting point, and I think this is a good IEM that people are going to like that get it and try it. Does it do anything special? Not necessarily, but what it does do, it does really well, and it's just an all-day gorgeous set that I love. I love this set, and I think there's a lot to like about this set. Thanks for watching my video. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I hope you guys have a great day. Bye-bye. You're still here. It's over. Go home. Oh, you're expecting a teaser for our next video. Well, we don't have that kind of money. What are you expecting? One of those store reviewers to show up in a saucy little leather number? Go. Oh, I can tell you one thing. We are going to have a collab video. We have no idea what it's going to be. Probably Kryn, maybe Chris. Or Joyce. Don't deny it. She's got range. Go. Get out of here. Go.
Go!
Go.
Go on with you!